Tengo desde Liverpool, Inglaterra, a Andy McCluskey, que junto con Paul Humphreys son los fundadores de una banda legendaria e icónica de los 80s que se llama, muchos la conocían como OMD, otros como Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. Andy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hola, buenos dias. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
How lovely. I love your hola, buenos dias.
That's all I know. Sorry.
Oh, no worries, darling. So can you hear what I'm playing on the radio?
I could just hear a little bit of Souvenir, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I opened this segment with, because that is a song that is part of the soundtrack of my life.
Oh,
and then I am playing right now Secret, which is a song that we danced nonstop in the 80s at every possible disco. I still ask the audience, how did we dance this music? Because I think it's like, what, 115 beats per minute?
It's very 80s white boy music, and you're dancing on the backbeat, not the downbeat. You're on the snare drum, not the bass drum, for those who want to know.
But that's super interesting. This is the first time I have had a chance to have a conversation with you, Andy. So we need to talk about the past. Then we'll talk about the present and the future. But I mean, you were so big in the 80s. And I think OMD is part of the soundtrack of many of us, the soundtrack of our lives. So tell me about the 80s. Talk to me about the 80s.
You don't remember the 80s. You must have been in diapers in the 80s.
Oh, no, darling, trust me. I was already in my teens in the 80s. Don't let the youth fool you. How old are you?
I'm 64.
Okay, I'm
64.
56.
You're a baby.
So I was there.
But you're looking amazing on it. Well, listen, the bottom line is, as you said, the music that is your journey from childhood into adulthood, it stays with you forever, because that is the soundtrack of the most important time of your life. So we are blessed that because we were very successful in the 80s, for people like your generation, we were part of that journey. And so we remain the soundtrack, which is amazing. We're blessed.
So just think about this, Andy. I'm 56. I've been doing music radio, since I was 19.
Wow.
So that means that, late 80s, when there was all this like Brit pop wave, from you guys to Spandau Ballet to the Blow Monkeys and ABC and Curiosity to Kill the Cat and the Clash and all this, we were doing radio in Mexico. So you are a part of our lives.
Well, thank you. You know, the crazy thing is actually that it took us a long time to realize that there was a massive audience for us in Mexico, because we never came down across the border until the 90s. And then we stopped again for another 20 years. And only when we started coming about 10 years ago did we really realize that Mexico was in love with us, and we didn't come and do enough gigs. It was like it was a secret to us that we didn't know. It was crazy. So believe me, we have a European and a British tour early next year, but we're coming to see you guys next fall.
Bravo, darling! We've been adoring you for the last 43 years. What are you talking about?
Well, we didn't know, and I apologize. So we've got a lot of catching up to do with Mexico. We need to come and play some We Are Sorry We Didn't Come in the 80s gigs for you.
Exactly.
But you know what? I mean, we've had some amazing concerts now that we've started to come and play. So we're looking forward to next year.
You know what I've always thought, and this is a conversation that I have with my audience that is maybe younger than me, certainly a conversation that I have with my children, is that I always tell them, it's so sad that you were born the end of the 90s or beginning of the 2000s, because you missed out the 80s. And every time we play music on the show, we always gravitate to the 80s, obviously because of our age, but also because I believe, and I want your opinion, that music in the 80s is a very, very special decade, musically speaking, that has never been repeated. And I can't tell my children why. Maybe you have a better explanation than I do, but I do feel that's the truth.
I agree with you. I'll sound like I'm an egotist or a narcissist, won't I? Because I was making that music in that decade. Listen, as I said, it's the music that you were listening to on your journey. It was the music we were making. But you know, the great thing is, we're still here. we're still making music. All of the bands that you mentioned before and more of them, we're still making music. So, your kids can come and see us if you can get them away from Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran or whatever nonsense they listen to.
You are from the generation of what bands?
I was a teenager in the 70s. So I missed out on, our hometown band, the Beatles, who were quite good, quite famous.
Yeah.
But I was a kid when my mother was buying their records. So I was looking for something different in the 70s. So I liked German electronic music, obviously like Kraftwerk, but also I loved David Bowie. I love Roxy Music. I love the Velvet Underground from New York. I liked something that was musical but slightly more weird. That's where our influence came from when we were teenagers.
So do you consider yourself like electronic, like synth music? Do you remember Howard Jones?
Yeah.
And Thomas Dolby that were very like synth oriented?
Well, listen, the nice thing is next year in London, when we play in London, we've got a special guest supporting us at one show in London called Howard Jones.
Oh my God!
Howard supported us back in 1983, just before New Song became his first hit. So we go back to the first time he supported us in 83. So we're having a little reunion next year.
So then I was not so off.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who else I remember? Do you remember Thomas Dolby?
We played on the 101 tour with Depeche Mode in 1988. And when we finished at the Pasadena Rose Bowl in front of 70,000 people, Thomas Dolby was on with us as well. And of course, the funny thing is that Vince Clarke, who started Depeche Mode, always loves to tell us that they were in a club in Basildon and they heard our first song, Electricity, in 1979. They went, that's it. We're giving up the guitars. We're going to be a synth band. So we started Depeche Mode.
Oh my God, that is so cool. And then Vince Clarke ended up doing Erasure, right?
Yeah, and many other wonderful things as well. He's a genius.
You've had music 2010, 2013, English Electric, 2017, The Punishment of Luxury, and then 2023, which is the new album, which is Bauhaus Staircase. So you've been busy.
Well, we said to ourselves when we reformed after a couple of years, is this it? Are we just now a tribute band? We're only going to do our old songs. Well, we were stupid enough to try and do something new, but we promised ourselves we would only release new music if we felt it was good enough. And you know what? After 45 years, last Friday, the Bauhaus Staircase album, our 14th studio album, went to number 2 in the UK album chart, the highest we've ever been.
Oh, bravo. Amazing. But you know what must be very, very difficult, Andy? It is not only making new music that sounds, to the times, but also respecting your essence. So that must be very complicated.
You walk in a tightrope. It's a balancing act because we are blessed to have had a career where people recognize the type of sound we have a distinctive sound. So we don't want to throw that away, but we don't want to just make a kind of a boring copy of it. So you're trying to say, sound like ourselves, but sound new. And that is a difficult thing to do. But I think that the new album, everybody says it sounds authentically OMD, but it's still fresh. So it seems like we did it. I don't know how we did it, but I think we did it.
And before I let you go, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the most political album of OMD of all times. Tell me how and why.
We've always touched on politics. I mean, listen, Enola Gay was political about the morality of dropping atom bombs. There's a song on the album particularly called Kleptocracy. We believe in democracy, but there are certain narcissist politicians who've basically stolen our democracies. And you know who I mean. I didn't even mention the names in the song, but it's obvious who I mean. I'm angry. I'm really angry that democracy is the best chance we have to all live together, and there are liars and thieves who are stealing it from us.
My friend, it was so great talking to you, to meet you at last.
Thank you.
Give Paul a big hug from us. And please, when you take the decision of coming to Mexico, please let us know because we would love to have you in the studio.
Deal. We'll hold you to that. It's a delight to see you and talk to you. And thank you. We'll see you next year, okay?